You're about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dahlia, 1-877-DOCDALI. I woke up this morning. I am in so much pain. My body is just aching. My back, my knees, my joints. No, not the flu. Not the flu. I hung up Christmas lights yesterday. And I did not realize what a blood sport that is. I gotta tell you, I do it every year. I just love putting up the lights, and we got the little icicles, and because of Hanukkah, we do blue and white, and then we got snowman, and we got, it's fun. But oh my gosh, I hurt so bad. Oh, the slipping and the falling and the yelling at the dog and chasing the dog because the dog wanted to run outside, no leash, and I told the dog to get the leash back on. She's out of her flipping mind to be no leash, and then the other dog comes. And I'm hoarse because of all the yelling. And then my husband almost falls from the tree multiple times because I told him to get up in a tree. And I know you could hire somebody, but somebody died last year in Escondido, California, because he was hanging up the lights and there was a power supply nearby and he electrocutes himself. And it was somebody who was hired to hang up lights. I could not live with myself if I hired somebody who died putting up my lights. I couldn't do that. So I'd rather be me and my husband, I guess. Now, nobody should be dying, but thousands upon thousands of people injure themselves every year. I had 3 patients yesterday, slips and falls, sprains, scrapes, cuts, nail gun injuries. We listen, it's an important time. It's also, though, very, it can be very, very frustrating. Now, I like doing the lights because it's for the neighborhood. I could decorate the inside of the house, but the outside of the house is so the neighborhood, because we got a lot of kids and all that. They come up and they like to see it. And so I like to do that. Plus, but I got to tell you, though, nothing screams Jew more than decorating your house poorly. And I mean, everybody knows that we're the Jewish people in the neighborhood, because it's just the lights. You could tell, we've only been doing this the last few years, and we haven't been doing this our whole lives. And so but it's getting there. It's getting there. Although I got to tell you, if you want to limit your frustration, for the love of the Lord, please check the lights before you put them up. So remember, I got busted by the Homeowners Association a few months ago because my Christmas lights were still up. It wasn't the outside. I have a little atrium in the front yard. In the front, you open the door, and there's a little atrium before you get to the house door. And so I had all these beautiful lights on the plants, and they were perfect. They lit perfectly. And I'm like, you know what? Why don't I leave these here? They aren't necessarily Christmas lights now. They're lights. They're in the atrium. They're not seen outside. The homeowners Gestapo shouldn't have a problem with this, and they're perfect. They they're symmetrically and geometrically choreographed and all organized on the okay, well, I had to take them down because they were fining me $100 a week. I don't know how they knew there's busybodies that run around the neighborhood. So I take them down, and then yesterday I spent an hour and a half putting them back up. And when I take the plug to plug it in, nothing. For some reason, the lights just don't work. And now I got to take that all down and go and get new lights. I am so anyway, I'm frustrated. And then we got these little little icicle thingies. I think they're like icicles. And so we want to put them in the tree, but I could only reach the bottom part of the tree. And I can't use the ladder because we have very little front yard. You don't really get a lot of big yards in Vegas. So our front yard is really, really small. And there's a hill, so I can't so I told my husband, let me just climb the tree. He goes, no, I'll do it, because he's all macho. Like, I don't mind climbing the tree. He's like, I'll do it. So he's climbing the tree, and he's on the branches, and he's trying to put the lights, and it's not enough. And then I realized I forgot to string the lights along the branches. And so I go, oh, honey, we got to take all that down because I wanted to branch the light. I wanted to light the branches first. Then I'm teaching my son about the trachea and then the bronchioles, or the bronchi and then the bronchioles. So we wanted to put the lights, I told him, on the bronchi and some of the bronchioles and the little alveoli or the little leaves. And so, I gave him a little pulmonary lesson with that one. But here's the thing, guys. I was ready to call 911. Right. You want to make sure you have, you're ready for emergencies. Don't just have somebody do the lights by themselves. Make sure somebody's watching. Number 2 is don't do stupid. If you can't put them up on the roof, then that's okay. There's a lot of different ways to decorate around. And like we have this big, like 8-foot or 10-foot snowman. You could add height. And we have an upstairs balcony. So I strung more icicle lights on that. So there's a way to get height if you can't afford, gosh, it's expensive to hire somebody to do them. Or you don't want to have somebody put them up. Dress for the weather. I was in flip-flops. And that's not easy to chase the dog that's running around and getting the rocks and slipping and sliding. Wear good shoes. Make sure you have a work belt, a utility belt, so you're not sitting there trying to reach. Make sure you have your cords and your extension cords and your timer ready to go. Because what I was doing is I was putting up the lights and I was throwing the cord going, okay, we'll just deal with that later. So now we have all these outlets and there's no place to put them. All right. Which was kind of stupid. And so you got to not trip. A lot of times I wanted to see if the lights work. So I connected the cord with another cord. And so now it's a limbo. It hits limbo height, the cord. And so then one of my other family members turns around and then trips on that. And then I was yelling because I wanted to look at the lights, and now they messed up the cord. And they're on the ground, complaining. I'm like, it's your fault. Okay, I told you guys I was lighting this up. But anyway, you got to be careful because of that. So listen, hanging Christmas lights and Hanukkah lights should not be a blood sport. With the Hanukkah, the Hanukkah, we use, candles and fire. I'm kind of limited because with my kids and the cats love that. And then they catch themselves on fire and then the whole house goes on fire. So it's the holiday time, but be careful. I got to take some ibuprofen. 1-877-DOC-DOLLY. Don't go away. Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
diesel fuel cetane levels.
The cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.
you all for tuning in. 1-877-Dr. Dolly, 1-877-DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to you all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter or X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook, The Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube, click like and subscribe. So when are people going to learn? When is the government, when are politicians going to learn? Throughout COVID, when we were locking down, I was listening to some old shows and we were talking about how, look, guys, I know you're thinking we're only going to be locking down for a few weeks and then maybe locking down no more than a month. It is going to take for every week at least a month to recover for every single week, at least. In fact, we're still recovering, trying to get people to come back to work. We knew that once you shut down and tell people to not go back to work, and they get in the habit of not working and and getting other aspects of their life and starting new jobs, or it's going to be very hard to go back to normalcy. And here we are with the government shutdown. Hopefully, it sounds like the House, I think everybody hopefully got back with all the travel chaos to Washington. I would have had all House members, stay throughout this whole thing in Washington. I wouldn't have had them go home. I understand why they were on recess, but because, when finally those Senate Democrats decided to pass or sign the CR, which they signed before, I would have had the House members ready to go. But I get it. People had to go home. It was going on for, 40-some days. So Speaker Johnson, Sunday night, told everybody to get their butts back. And so I believe they're going to vote today, and then it's going to go to the president's desk. However, as I told you guys a week or two ago, you might want to rethink travel plans with Thanksgiving, because the airline chaos is going to persist. Just because the government goes, okay, now we're funding again, the backlog, the bottlenecking, not to mention weather, and it's the holiday. I mean, there's always travel chaos on Thanksgiving. But one of the big issues that the FAA is having and airlines are having is we told people that they were going to have to work for free, or, they'll get back pay once the government reopens, but they either need to come and work for free or don't come in. Well, a lot of air traffic controllers are like, look, it's not that I don't want to come in, it's just I got to feed my family. So I'm going to Uber, or I'm going to take on another job, or my wife or my husband's going to take on more hours, and then I'll stay home with the kids. I mean, 40 plus days of shutdown isn't going to take 40 days to go back to normal. It's going to take, months. For every week we shut down, it's going to take a month at least to recover. Now, people can say, Dr. Dahlia, it's okay. Just the air traffic controllers will come back to work. The TSA agents will come back to work. We're hearing many of them quit. And I don't blame them. Their senators didn't have their back. Now, our senator did. Senator Catherine Cortez Masto did. And then finally, Jackie Rosen was one of the senators to say, no, Nevada's come first. But for the average air traffic controller, TSA agent, military, a SNAP benefit recipient, people who needed the government. And this was all about, this is so ironic, Obamacare and premiums being unaffordable. Who caused that? And again, who predicted it? We predicted that would happen. And now you're punishing Americans. So thank God some of the senators came to their, it came to their senses, voted to pass it, went to the House, supposed to be being voted on at the House today, and then hopefully it goes to President Donald Trump's desk. So then now what? Well, airlines lost money throughout all this because they had to cancel flights. And when you cancel flights, you got to give people their money back. Not to mention they had to, deal with all the chaos. And because we don't have enough air traffic controllers, flights are still being canceled. Now, we are coming up on one of the busiest travel weekends, of the year. I mean, with Christmas, people spread it out a little bit. Not everybody flies on the exact same day, but with Thanksgiving always comes on Thursday, next Thursday. Not this coming Thursday, that's coming up. But no, it's the Thursday. It's like anyway, it's on a Thursday, and the Thanksgiving break. Some people get a whole week. Now, I mean, when I was at school, it was just your Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So you had to leave Wednesday and get your butt back by Sunday. So you have a much higher demand on those days. Some people take off the week before. Some people are leaving next weekend, but it's still going to be a very high travel. So if your flight was canceled, not to mention now, all these delayed flights or canceled flights, you have to put people on the flights they need because they have to go home. It's not that everybody's going on vacation. You have a lot of people that need to get back from where they were. It's going to be bottlenecked, and there's going to be huge delays. And I don't understand why our politicians are just so loose and cavalier about lockdowns and shutdowns. They didn't learn anything from COVID and what a mess that is. And so now you're hearing, not a lot of air traffic controllers want to go back to work. Why? Well, because January 30th is going to come up. Now, the funding is supposed to go through January 30th. But what happens? What if you have more senators say, oh, Obamacare, yeah, the GOP is not letting us have leverage, so this is the only time we can have leverage. What if they decide to do that again? If I was an air traffic controller, I would be looking for a new career. I feel bad. I don't blame them. God bless the ones that still came to work and worked for free. But, I mean, the furloughs used to be a week or two. Employees would get their money back. It was kind of a nice paid vacation. This was different. This went on and on. And what was the cause? This is where the Democrats messed up. If it was, well, people are dying in, Nigeria, they're killing Christians in Nigeria, or there's, if there was a cause that you would get more people around, but Obamacare being too expensive, we've been telling you that since 2009. And here you are 16 years later using that as an excuse to shut down the government. Come on, man. Come on. So it was a mess. But now everybody's like, okay, whew, all right, we're back. Let's go. Snap of a finger. Well, we'll be ready to go. No. It's going to be an absolute mess. Thanksgiving travel is already a mess. So for those of you planning, your Thanksgiving travel, I would rethink it unless you're totally okay with the delays and all that and you have a backup plan. See, I love Friendsgiving. I could celebrate Thanksgiving any time of year. I understand it really, really feels good to be on that Thursday and having the Dallas Cowboy game in the background, but I want to watch the game. And so, I've evolved it. Also, I work. So I'm always working every Thanksgiving. So we've kind of evolved it to let's do our own little thing. And then, we do, have the family event later when it's not as hectic. And then also I get to watch football and work. But because I'm seeing patients on that day, I see patients on Christmas. I just work on the holidays. But I mean, if I have to later organize with now the in-laws and all that coming up in the future, I would be like, guys, let's do it November 17th. Let's do it November, and then bypass the travel chaos. But we're all together. We're enjoying the turkey. We're spending time. Who cares what day? I mean, I get with Christmas, it has to be the 25th. I get that. But why not? I mean, we celebrate Thanksgiving, always on a Thursday. We could celebrate it any day that we want. And maybe that'll kind of decrease some of the congestion, and for somebody traveling because they have to work Wednesday night on Thanksgiving, they're probably not going to make it to where they need to go. And without a delay. So rethink your plans, come up with something that you think will work for everybody, unless you're totally, totally fine with the delays. I mean, from what we're understanding, it's not going to be just delays, but there are going to be some flights canceled. We're hearing that some of the airlines might not be able to have all the flights that they were initially planning. And then also, what do you do with your pilots and your flight attendants? It's a choreography that I got to credit, even though I've been very grumpy with the airlines on how you can't even get peanuts anymore. And I get it. There's allergies, but I mean, you're starving on the plane. You're boxed in. I mean, and I've had flight attendants who were rude. On the other end, God bless our flight attendants and our pilots for dealing with all this and people being grumpy. They want to be home with their family. And now they're going to be dealing with people who are pretty grumpy. But the choreography of making sure that you have this crew get off this plane and go to this and this, I mean, it's like a ballet. It's a masterpiece. And that all got messed up because of the shutdown. The 1877, Doc Dolly. Back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1877 Dr. Dolly, 1877 DOCDALI. So one of the things that the HHS under RF Kennedy Jr. is doing is Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Is reevaluating things that could possibly be putting our kids at risk. And they're reevaluating, is it really necessary for all children to get COVID vaccines? Now that COVID's getting milder, many people have some form of natural immunity, and we're still trying to study if there's side effects to the shots. Also, looking at what could be happening with the rising autism rates, where we're now 1 in 36 children, and is there something we're doing? He had said this when he was campaigning. Is there something that is happening in utero where the moms are inadvertently doing that could be affecting our children? Why now? Why do we have so many kids with autism or on the autism spectrum now? And so what is something that parents are doing or pregnant people are doing more than they used to do? Well, we are vaccinating pregnant women more. So that's something they're looking at. We do have a lot more radiation with our cell phones, etc. We do have higher maternal age. Women are not having babies at 18, 19 like they used to. They're having them when they're 35, 40. And yes, we do see higher rates of autism with advanced maternal age. So that's another thing to be looking at. Are they taking medications that they used to not while in pregnancy? And we used to ubiquitously use Tylenol. And then I remember in the 90s, they're like, you know what, maybe let's start holding back a little bit. Don't take too much of it. And there were early studies suggesting that there could be neurodevelopmental issues in babies, as well as urogenital issues. And study authors were suggesting we might want to rethink the ubiquitous use of Tylenol in pregnancy. Well, fast forward to 2025, Trump holds a press release with Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. and says, look, Tylenol's bad. We understand, some people might really need to take it for high fevers, but, if you don't need it, don't take it. Now, I did disagree with Trump saying just bear through, the pain or the fever. I did disagree with that. I think Trump needs to leave, the medical advice to the doctors because a high fever in pregnancy can cause neurodevelopmental issues. However, if somebody is having a high fever and they're at home treating themselves with Tylenol, that's not advised at all. If you're pregnant and you have a high fever, we need to figure out why you have that fever. Is it pneumonia? Is it a kidney infection? Is it a infection in the uterus that could be affecting the baby? So nobody should be treating their high fever on their own anyway. A high fever in pregnancy means all hands on deck. We need to figure out what the hell is going on. Well, there's been a lot of now debate. Doctors have been going, well, I know we heard about some things, some studies saying it was bad, some studies saying it wasn't, so there is a mix, as it pertains to doctors. There's a divide. Well, there's a study that was published in the British Medical Journal saying that they reviewed studies and they found no clear link between taking acetaminophen or paracetamol. Paracetamol is the European version of acetaminophen, or what we use in Tylenol. During pregnancy, no risk, no clear link between taking it during pregnancy and a child's risk of developing autism or ADHD. Now, the researchers examined 9 systematic reviews covering 40 observational studies on paracetamol use in pregnancy and neurodevelopmental outcomes in children, and they concluded that the overall quality of evidence connecting the paracetamol to neurodevelopmental disorders is low to critically low. Now, when you see something like this, you're like, okay, whoa, that's pretty, telling. Then looks like it might be safe. But then you're like, well, wait a second. Well, which is it? When you have, I've read you some of the studies. In fact, there was a study that came out in 2021 during COVID, kind of suggesting that pregnant women might want to be a little careful, taking all this Tylenol when they have COVID. So what is it? Why can't doctors and researchers get their story straight? And how is there such a divide? Why is the science so different? Well, it depends on the study. Now, this could be a fantastic study, looking at 40 observational studies. Observational meaning this is a kid with autism. Let's look and see, what their mom did and observe to see if there was possibly a risk or not. As opposed to, okay, pregnant moms, we're going to give you this and let's see what happens to your baby. We don't do those with pregnant women. So somebody could argue, well, did they also get those studies in this batch or net of studies they chose? Did those studies include the ones that said there was a pretty statistically significant link? So one is, it could be also just the design of the study. Another is, as I've always said, I don't truly believe that if you take Tylenol, you're going to give your kid autism. I don't necessarily think, and I also don't necessarily think that the majority of autism cases are because of Tylenol. But what I do believe is that it's different strokes for different folks. And for some women and for some pregnancies, it's not good. There was a child, this was back in, maybe 2006. The child, over Thanksgiving vacation, I forget what state this was in, got some sort of a fever and an infection. And so the doctor's office was closed. So the mom treated the child with over-the-counter ibuprofen, children's Motrin. The child went into something called a Stevens-Johnson's reaction, where her skin got very red, started to peel, and she ended up having a severe reaction from taking the Motrin. Now, children's Motrin, I have suggested it for years. I still do. I think children's Motrin has some fantastic uses and applications to help with pediatric pain, fevers, etc. But what happened to that one child is not necessarily representative of what happens to everybody. But we listen to that case and we go, wait a second here. Maybe we need to warn parents. Maybe we need to let them know that some people could be at risk. And that's kind of what needs to be done with this. If we have been seeing these studies for a while now, this is nothing new, that there's been concerns that Tylenol could cause neurodevelopmental changes, then we do need to warn pregnant patients. Now, I don't think we need to warn them the way Trump did, saying, don't even take it, it's bad for you. I don't think we have to go to that degree, but why aren't we educating pregnant patients that there have been studies showing a link? Now, this, looking at 40 observational studies, said they found no link. Okay, well, that's great. That's reassuring, but I need more more guidance, because there's been multiple other studies saying there is a link. And so I'm going to be more likely to believe the links than the not links, because I need to make sure that I ensure that patients are safe. Now, then the other issue that we think about is if moms are taking, let's say, Tylenol to the degree that it could possibly affect the neurodevelopment of a child, what condition is causing them to do that? Is it chronic pain? Is it the stress of pain? Do they have a type of physiology that causes them to have bad fevers? I never had a fever in pregnancy. But if somebody does, let's say, is it that's causing the issue and not necessarily the Tylenol? So these are things we need to study. 1-877 Dr. Ali.
Hey guys, it's Clyde. You know, we've had a lot of requests for Ground Zero merchandise, so we put together an online store with a big variety of high-quality items. I'm really excited to let you know about these things. We have a lot to offer you and your loved ones. In addition to our regular apparel, such as t-shirts, beanies, hoodies, and hats, we've expanded our product line with posters, flags, aprons, mugs, and a whole lot more. We also have Ground Zero collectibles along with a limited edition of items like a Clyde Lewis canvas portrait, a Ground Zero embroidered jacket that will certainly make for great gifts and for interesting conversations with family and friends. And we now offer publications such as Ron Patton's book about mind control, MK Zine, and back copies of the official magazine of Ground Zero while it was in print. Paranoia, the Conspiracy Reader, also coming in 2023, are updated and revised books that I've written. There's a secure and easy-to-use shopping cart for your purchases. So shop today at our official store by going to groundzeromerch.com. Again, that's groundzeromerch.com.
Hey, America. How tired are you of mainstream corporate media's biased narratives and manipulated news? Their dishonesty and attempts to influence this generation have been exposed, put on display for anyone who's even half paying attention. But the New American Magazine has been an honest source of news and commentary for over 50 years. This is your opportunity to receive the stalwart of principled journalism at a deep discount. Picture a beautifully published magazine arriving at your doorstep twice a month, packed with insightful stories written with integrity. It's also available digitally on the New American's mobile app. Get up to speed with intelligent coverage from a freedom perspective. Right now, for a limited time, the New American is available to radio listeners at a 25% discount on a new subscription. Visit thenewamerican.com/radio25 and receive 25% off. Subscribe today at thenewamerican.com/radio25.
Back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So this is a question I've been getting, which is a real good question, because a lot of doctors are asking me about this too. So when you used to get strep throat as a kid, the doctor would give you an antibiotic, right? When you used to get bronchitis, a lot of doctors gave antibiotics and we're supposed to stop that because it's viral, but they'll give you an antibiotic and then they'll give you a cough syrup. Sometimes the cough syrup had codeine, sometimes it didn't. And these were kind of regimens that you got pretty used to, a Z-Pack and fries. And now people are going in to the urgent care, or they're calling telemedicine companies, and they aren't even getting the antibiotic, they're getting a steroid pack. So rather than a Z-Pack, they're getting a steroid pack. Or they have shingles, let's say, which we treat with an antiviral, an adult form of chickenpox, and their doctor is giving them steroids. Or they have strep throat. They might be given an antibiotic, but the doctor also gives them steroids. And a lot of patients are asking, what are they supposed to be doing with the steroids? And do they work or do they not? So it's interesting because I'm seeing a lot of people getting prescriptions for prednisone, Medrol dose pack. Some people love it. The Medrol dose pack is becoming the new Z-Pack, and others are kind of scared. Well, it's different strokes for different folks. But how I trained, and a lot of the older doctors trained, is you want to work with your immune system. I'm an MD. But I think very similarly as DOs do, doctors of osteopaths, and a lot of MDs still think the way I do too, where any sort of medicine we're using is supposed to be an adjunct with your body's ability to heal. We want to make sure your body helps heal. And so if you, let's say, have a fever, we don't want to squash the fever, make the fever go away, which I see parents do all the time. They go, gosh, I'm giving them Tylenol and Motrin every 3 hours, alternated one or the other, and the fever keeps coming back. Well, yeah, because the fever is trying to fight what the child has. I mean, you try to suppress your child's immune system. We don't want a high fever because they get dehydrated, they're in pain, they're lethargic, and that fever, the high fever, could cause a seizure. But why, with a low-grade fever, are you overdosing them with these medications when the fever is trying to fight the illness? So, same thing with steroids. Steroids suppress your immune system. And so when we would have patients with pneumonia, we wanted to fight the pneumonia, but we had a second fight, which was the inflammatory fluid. And so one of the first times I saw steroids being given at the same time as an antibiotic was when we would have these pneumonia cases where we didn't think just the antibiotic would work. Now, when I had pneumonia in my 20s, the antibiotic was fine. But for some people, they have so much, or the cytokine storm, like we saw with COVID, where we use the steroids to calm that down. Unfortunately, with COVID, for many people, the steroids just wasn't enough. Once they went into the cytokine storm and their lungs start to fill up, they basically drowned. It was horrible. COVID death was a horrible death. But I started to see in training that we would be using steroids in the 90s in addition to antimicrobials if we thought the inflammation was worsening the condition. Now, however, we have changed our attitudes towards cough syrups with codeine for, the antitussive property. We've changed our attitudes towards pain medications because we think that there's people will become addicted, the more they use pain medications. And so we are writing steroids for your painful sore throat, for your painful cough, for your joint pain, for your back pain. And people are getting steroids now all the time. Well, that could be dangerous. It could help, but it could be dangerous. Now, I mean, when I had strep throat, a painful sore throat, I would take Tylenol or Motrin and the antibiotic, and I would get better. But there's a demand by patients where they want to feel better quicker. And the steroid may decrease that swelling of the tonsil and the pain. And people are now asking for antibiotics and steroids at the same time. And doctors are giving it. Same thing with cough and bronchitis. What great grandma used to do with schnapps, got substituted for or evolved into a cough syrup that had alcohol, and then it turned into a cough syrup with codeine. And now in medicine, they don't like to use those, so they give you steroids. The problem is that steroids are not without their risks. Steroids suppress the immune system, so some people might not get better. Steroids also, which I'm finding, can cause people with anxiety and depression to really lose it. We had a nurse who was taking, I think her doctor gave her antibiotics and a steroid, and it was a heavy Medrol dose pack. And she just starts screaming and yelling and just wigging out on people. And, I was like, are you on any new medicines? Because I didn't think she did drugs. And I go, you were sick recently. And she's like, yeah, I go, did they give you steroids? I mean, I have seen steroids cause some people to go into psychosis. So if you have baseline anxiety and depression, you need to know about that. Prednisone, Medrol dose pack, these steroids could also cause you to be more hungry, could cause you to gain weight, can also cause your blood sugar to go up. It could also affect your GI. system where you can be more prone to ulcers and GI upset. And we do sometimes see it really slow the healing. If you're on steroids long term, it can affect your bones, thin your bones, weaken your joints, affect your heart, worsen your diabetes, mess with your eyes, causing glaucoma and cataracts, mess with your adrenals. So your adrenals make steroids. And if you're doing exogenous steroids, taking steroid medication, then your adrenal glands start to stop working because it's suppressing the body's ability to make natural corticosteroids. For children, getting frequent steroids for asthma, that could stunt their growth. So, we're coming up on cough and cold season, and many people are going to be asking to suppress their cough or something for their throat pain. I like using the lozenges with benzocaine. Everything has their risks, but an oral steroid, might not always be the exact thing you need and the healthiest thing you need. So definitely talk to your medical provider. Now, a once in a blue moon course of steroids, I don't think is that unsafe, especially if you're healthy. But if you have high blood pressure, if you have an ulcer, if you have diabetes, if you have anxiety, depression, if you have kidney disease, if you have liver disease, if you have thin bones, if you have a very vulnerable immune system, you might need to rethink that. And so, another thing too that I've noticed is whenever I do have, let's say, an allergic reaction, or I have, let's say, a lung issue where I need to take a steroid, I'm noticing that steroid doesn't work that day. I feel like the antibiotic works that day, but I don't get that feeling from the steroid. I am noticing that it takes at least 2 days to kick in. Well, so for those people calling up telemedicine, with hives all over their body or mouth swelling, they're like, well, just give me an oral steroid. I'm like, no. That could take you're in a severe reaction now. You need to go into the urgent care or ER and get a shot because this needs to, happen faster. And you might also need epinephrine. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
You are about to listen to the Dr. Dahlia Show. Sassy, stimulating medical talk radio. Any medical advice Dr. Dahlia Wax gives on her show should not be substituted for an actual visit to your medical provider. And now, here's Dr. Dahlia.
All right, we are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Doc Dolly, 1-877 DOCDALI. So, a penny for your thoughts. I want to give you a penny for your thoughts on the last penny getting minted today. Well, I'll give you my thoughts, and you don't even have to give me a penny. I think it's about time. I mean, we are finding out that it's costing $3.67. It costs 3 cents, 3.67 cents to make 1 penny. So nearly 4 cents to make a penny. And as we're going more digital, the mint, the Treasury can't be spending that kind of money. And Trump was like, what the hell are we doing? Now, I think the very first penny was made in 1787, but I believe the Treasury first minted it in, I think, 1793. Hold on, I want to look that up. Let me see. 1792. So the first penny was in 1787, and then the first mint, shall we say, or its validation under the U.S. currency was authorized under the Coinage Act of 1792. And so there is going to be a ceremonial minting of the nation's final penny. I'm telling you right now, that last penny, that's going to be worth a pretty penny. It's funny because everybody, has been talking about these sayings that we've been using with pennies, and I didn't realize how long we've been doing that. Like, find a penny, pick it up all day long. You have good luck. A penny's worth of, I don't know. I don't know. We've just been using those terms ubiquitously, and we've been using pennies. We still get to, by the way, our pennies. I know everyone's like, well, let's now save our pennies because they're going to be worth millions of dollars later. Maybe generations from now. So you might want to keep a few pennies for your great-great-grandchildren. But right now, pennies are still in use. So they, if you have a couple hundred pennies, and you want to cash those in, I don't blame you. I remember our family. My father would come home from work now because he would fix people's appliances, and I don't know how, but sometimes they paid him in change, and he would empty his pocket and throw the change in a jar, and we would be so excited when that jar was able to be counted, and we would like make $25 or $30. I mean, it was, and we were like, wow, we could use that for dinner. And we were really excited about that. And it was a big deal to count the change and to roll the pennies. And my mom would tape them up, and we would stick the pennies in, and we would have a roll of pennies. And it was, we learned to, and the coins had a smell to them. I mean, now we hand sanitize because we know that, but I didn't mind touching money. It was money, and I didn't get sick from it. But now we're like, well, we don't want to touch coins. We want to just, tap our card. We don't want to put our card into anything. We just want to tap it. Nobody touch, contactless. And we're really getting into that age where currency and hard cash is going to be a thing of the past. Now, I know people are freaking out going, why did Trump do this? To me, it makes sense. I do not want to spend triple, almost quadruple to make something that is only worth a penny. I think that's ridiculous. I think it is high time that we reevaluate, what we're spending money on. And if it costs that much to mint a penny, why are we doing it? So to me, it makes sense. But there's a lot of nostalgia. And I think a lot of people are starting to kind of go, pennies were big deals when we were growing up. And I remember, getting chewed out because I had dropped a coin and I didn't want to pick it up. And I remember my mom said, pick it up. You dropped money. And I go, oh, it's just a penny. Just a penny? And then, she told me about, the Depression and how my grandfather would be singing that song, brother, can you spare a dime? And, it just put things into perspective. And so when I see a penny, I don't pick it up because, I want the money. I pick it up out of respect. I really have a respect for what that penny represents, even though I do think we need to stop minting them. So I don't think it's a bad idea for you to keep some of your real nice, shiny ones as heirlooms because, generations from now, these pennies, I think, will be worth something. It's going to be an old coin. I think any of our coins. I love collecting coins. I love collecting antiques. So if you have pennies, I like my pennies. I got to find where they are from World War II, where you have, a 1940s, the back is different. Your 1930s and 20 pennies look, and I think having these old currencies that never got minted again also can be of value. And so there's always some collector, and somebody will always want to collect those things. But for now, there are trillions of pennies out there. So for us to save the money, I think it is brilliant. 230 years. And, piggy bank. Our piggy bank, whenever you saw the ad for one, it was a penny going in as opposed to like a quarter or whatever. So, just these things are, just amazing. Anyway, they say each year pennies account for a significant share of the U.S. coin production. In a fiscal year, they made up 57% of the mint's 5.61 billion circulating coins. And they say there are 300 billion pennies already in existence. This is going to save the U.S. government $56 million per year in production costs. Now, pennies are currently minted at the Philadelphia and Denver facilities. Each coin can circulate for about 30 years, according to Fox News, before wearing out. So there will be no shortage of them. Again, whatever you're collecting now, don't expect to be able to sell on eBay tomorrow. But that's a lot of money. So I'm going to be kind of looking up old penny quotes just because it just makes me feel good. And I remember on Halloween, there was a house that gave a little bag of pennies. And I wanted chocolate. And I was like, I don't want these, Mom. You could have them. She's like, that's 10 cents. That's 10 pennies. You know, and you might need to buy a tampon one day. She was right. 1-877 Doc Dolly. Don't go away.
This is an urgent announcement for anyone that's $10,000 or more in debt. Before you make another minimum payment, you need to know there are special programs that can completely free you of your debt. Total Financial Freedom can help you become debt-free in months instead of years. Resolve your credit card debt, signature loans, department store cards, internet loans, and timeshares. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020 for a free consultation. For 16 years, Total Financial Freedom has helped thousands get out of debt. You can feel confident when calling because Total Financial Freedom is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. Battling for years and years stuck in the endless cycle of minimum payments could take decades. You have the right to get your debt resolved and substantially reduce your monthly payments. Call Total Financial Freedom now at 800-878-6020. That's 800-878-6020. 800-878-6020.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hot Shot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
We are back on the Dr. Dahlia Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877 Dr. Dahlia, 1-877 DOCDALI. Big thanks to Talk Media Network for making the show happen. Big thanks to Daniel, our producer, and big thanks to y'all for tuning in. We really do appreciate it. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at X at Dr. Dahlia, Facebook the Dr. Dahlia Show, and on YouTube. Click like and subscribe. So when you think of a family that has been riddled with trauma and drama, but just horrible things happening to that one family. Which family do you think of? I think of the Kennedys. JFK being assassinated, RFK being assassinated, JFK's son dying too young an age with his wife and her sister. You know, you just look at that family as, you know, they get hurt, unfortunately. And Ted Kennedy had his drama with, back in the 60s with these, I guess that was the girlfriend in the car and the drowning but just so much sadness, so much death surrounding that family. So when you think about what that family has gone through, you would think that they might be done with politics. That they might say, you want to know what? Maria Shriver ends up marrying Arnold Schwarzenegger, but then I guess he has a baby with somebody else, and that marriage ended in divorce, and families have divorce and families have death and all that, but being such a target, as we've seen from an assassination standpoint, I would not be surprised if anybody in that family decides, you know what, we're going to leave politics out of it. We're going to do other things, and we'll just, there's just too much hate out there. Well, apparently the grandson of John F. Kennedy, Jack Schlossberg, 32 years old, he's not afraid. And he is running for Congress. He is the grandson of John F. Kennedy and the son of Caroline Kennedy. He's a Yale and Harvard grad, and he is going to run for Congress in New York City. Now, I think he has been very open about his criticism of his cousin, RFK Jr., and I believe he's progressive, has endorsed Kamala Harris, but he is, planning to run for Congress. He announced today that he would be campaigning for a congressional seat in New York City's 12th district. It's an area that encompasses United Nations, Times Square, Empire State Building, Central Park, according to New York Times. And he is, with his youth, already online. People, are just like Mom Donnie did. He is appealing to young, progressive thinking. And he actually, this isn't the first time we heard of him. Jack Schlossberg made a name for himself when he took a more active role endorsing Kamala Harris. And he actually, chose her over his cousin, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. So still a lot of, you kind of wonder, with the exception of them making it as far as presidential candidates and assassinations, they do have a lot of similar drama as other families. But, look at Jimmy Kimmel's wife complaining that she has family members who voted for Trump. Boo-hoo. But John Jack Bouvier Kennedy Schlossberg is the grandson of President JFK. And he might actually go far. Now, what does his mom think? His mom's not happy. Caroline Kennedy is, quote, living in fear that her son is going to run for Congress and become a target for violent haters. Now, he has a following of close to 2 million on social media. He has gone on, I guess, certain rants and gotten himself, a name, gotten himself attention. And we're being told that his mom has told him not to run. Now, I'm sure that it's obviously his mom knows, right? His mom lost her father. She lost her uncle. She lost her brother. Caroline Kennedy has been through a lot. She doesn't want to lose her son. I wouldn't expect any other response from her. But if you were a Kennedy, would you run for office? You see, me, I'm of the mindset I'm not scared. Screw you guys. You aren't going to, prevent me from doing what I want to do or I feel born to do. But on the other end, there are some very sick people out there. Not only are there people fantasizing about murdering others or fantasizing about killing a president or a candidate, but there are people fantasizing about killing a Kennedy. And my worry is there is going to be a target on his back. Now, we do have great Secret Service, which is wonderful, and we have, and nowadays there's a lot more protections. And, sadly, JFK had, John F. Kennedy had an open convertible, was greeting people who loved him in Dallas, and then sadly, was shot. And so we don't do that anymore. There's bulletproof cars. But this just doesn't sound right to me. This doesn't sound like something I would at all support. So I would say no. Now, there's, when we talked about people being sick, this is disgusting. Have you guys heard this story? Where wealthy foreigners would shoot humans and they were called sniper tourists, and they were paid $90,000 to shoot civilians on human safari trips. I'm sorry, these tourists paid $90,000 to shoot civilians, more to shoot a child. Now, these are claims coming from multiple media outlets. New York Post is saying that wealthy sniper tourists allegedly paid up to $90,000 to shoot people during human safari trips to Sarajevo in the 90s, with an extra fee if they wanted to shoot a child. Now, this is being brought up by Italian prosecutors. The investigation was sparked after an Italian writer alleged he had uncovered evidence that wealthy gun enthusiasts, dubbed sniper tourists, would pay Bosnian Serb forces for the chance to gun down residents at random while there was the 4-year siege in the city. More than 10,000 were killed in Sarajevo by snipers and shelling between 1992 and 1996 during the Balkan Wars. They said there were Germans, French, English, people from all Western countries who paid large sums of money to be taken there to shoot civilians. There were no political or religious motivations. They were rich people who went there for fun and personal satisfaction. We are talking about people who love guns, who perhaps go to shooting ranges or on safari in Africa. Now, okay, I do not want to see somebody try to extrapolate this to people who, like to have guns to protect their family and like to hunt animals and fish and birds. And these are people that hunt game. But there are individuals who I believe exist on this planet who are so disgusting that they want to feel like they ended another human's life. And this wouldn't surprise me if there were people who were that disgusting to do this. And it wouldn't be somebody who likes, is a gun enthusiast, or somebody who wants to protect the family or support the Second Amendment rights. It's very hard to be somebody who's pro-Second Amendment and also to be somebody who wants to be murderous and murder a child. Somebody that wants that. If you're a true Second Amendment supporter, it's because you want to do that to protect loved ones and to protect your community. So that's a whole different subject for a different day. But a key source was a former Bosnian intelligence officer, and a Serb soldier claimed foreigners would shoot at residents from the hills in Sarajevo. Disgusting. 1877 Doc Dolly. We are back on the Dr. Dolly Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1877 Dr. Dolly, 1877 DOCDALI. So one of the biggest complaints employees have is, one, they're overworked and underpaid, right? But two, that they could get their job replaced by automation or AI, that their employer does not value them, and that them being human will not guarantee them having a job later, which is a valid concern. So then explain why this was their attitude. When Target came up with a new staff policy, it's part of a program called 10 to 4, where it, according to the news outlet, New York Post, it says they force employees to engage with customers more. I don't want to use the word force, but they are encouraging that employees engage with customers more. Employees within 10 feet of a customer are now required to smile, make eye contact, wave, and use friendly, approachable, and welcoming body language. Also in Target's rules, furthermore, staff within a 4-foot radius of a shopper must also personally greet the customer and initiate a warm, helpful interaction. Now, this is something that reminds me of the 1970s and 1980s. Hi, can I help you? Welcome to the store. Let me know if you need anything. Are you finding everything you need? I haven't seen that in decades. So Target is now enlisting their staff with some duties that include personal interaction to help save their jobs. And instead, people are complaining. And we're seeing online, people are complaining. Nothing says corporate joy like a mandatory smile. Listen, if you are an employee and you are worried that you're not going to keep your job, and mind you, this might only save your job through the holidays, but if your employer wants you to flip and smile, you smile. I mean, you're in customer service. I mean, this is where we've gone. Where, don't you, yeah, I mean, if I had a job, I understand that it's not my job to reinvent the job, but it is my job to understand what exactly the job entails, do research on that job, and make sure that I am doing the job requirements, not only as they ask, but with 100% effort, efficiency, and integrity. So I am blessed with a platform in media. All right, well, what is a doctor in media supposed to do? 1, all right, teach. 2, research what the headlines are. Don't just talk and have an opinion that's not founded. Explain what your opinion is. And show respect to your listeners. Show respect to your audience. Those customers are there to pay your salary. And you don't want to greet them with a smile. Now, I don't think all Target workers are, having blowback to this, but we're hearing that people are making fun of this online, and I'm like, really? One Reddit user claims to be a Target employee, says there has been an increase in secret shoppers to see if they're abiding by the new rules. And employees say that this policy is going to backfire. Somebody wrote, who the blank is waving at guests? If I was a shopper, I would find that creepy. This is what somebody, a Target worker, wrote. Quote, who the heck waves? I've never waved as a guest and would feel so uncomfortable. So, okay, by the way, secret shoppers. So when I worked at Jack in the Box, there would be secret shoppers to come in or through the drive-thru to see if the timing was right, if I was offering what I was supposed to, if I was doing my job. A good corporation does that to make sure their employees, because a lot of people, once the manager turns their back, people do whatever. So they want to know that the customer, what is the customer experiencing? Well, let me be a customer. They become a customer. They don't necessarily announce to everybody that they're a corporate, but they're a customer. They eat the food, they whatever, and then they gave points. I remember a secret shopper busted me a little bit. I didn't get fired, but I got marked some points down because I was working at Tony Roma's, and the customer came in, and I didn't offer an appetizer. I didn't suggest to sell the appetizer. And when I was offering food, well, I did. I go, would you like an appetizer? And they said, no, thank you. And I said, I understand. There's so much, the food, you get so much food, that I could understand. And that was a no, because when the customer said no, they didn't want an appetizer, I was supposed to suggestive sell the appetizers. And I didn't like that. I'm like, come on, man. Please. But and I mean, I still overall did well, but that's what corporations do. But how many times have I been at Target and I have walked up to somebody in a red shirt asking for help and they go, I don't work here. I keep doing that. I walk up to somebody with a red shirt. I don't want to do that. Me and my son were talking about that. Let's just, if we're bored, put on our red shirt and go to a Target and have people come up to us and then we lead them to the wrong aisle. Like a big dude goes, I'm looking for nuts and bolts and drill bits. And I'll be like, oh, okay, it's in aisle 22 where the feminine hygiene products are. That kind of stuff. We've been too busy to do that, but that does sound fun. But again, people, our jobs are getting replaced by the minute. And this is on the job training where humans are going to revolt. One, because they're losing their jobs. And two, people are going to say, look, can I just have a human? And what's going to happen is eventually people are going to be asking for companies and searching companies that actually have a human they can talk to and not a bot. And then those companies are going to be hiring for human interaction. And if you have a problem with waiving, come on. Now, they're saying in this article that customers don't want to be bothered when they're shopping. I sometimes feel that way too, where I'm just, again, looking at tampons or looking at toilet paper, or deodorant, and I really don't want somebody coming up. I'm like, let me just shop in private, please, and just, buy what I need, whatever. Thank you, though. But I'm nice. I'm like, thank you for offering. But there's been many times where I am looking for somebody and looking and running around. I can't find somebody. And then I want to find the overhead mic so I could say, customer service, aisle 10, please. I just like microphones. So, listen, I don't understand why this Target policy getting backlash. What Target is doing is showing how unless this is what they're doing to start preparing for replacing them after the holidays. Target is going to need humans. And they are going to need humans during the Christmas holiday shopping season. But then they might be, and who knows, like other companies, moving towards cheaper ways to provide customer service. And at least they could say, look, we tried, guys. We gave you guys roles where you offered something that AI and robots didn't. And you didn't like it. Employees didn't like it. So that's why we had to replace you. So be smart, people. I mean, the opportunity to show that customer service is needed. By the way, what a pilot program. Where their Target could say, look at what happened when we increased and we went back to 1980s sale templates. And it works. People like it. 1-877 Doc Dolly.
Carl Amari here to tell you about our newest website for old-time radio lovers. It's 100radioshows.com. At this site, there are 5 old-time radio shows waiting for you to download free as our gift to you, and be sure to browse the additional 700 old-time radio shows available to you for 70% off by using the promo code RADIO at checkout. This is a limited-time offer, so log on to 100radioshows.com. That's 100radioshows.com.
Have you ever thought you'd like to buy and sell houses but didn't know how or where to get the money? My name is Ron LeGrand, and over the past 40 years, I've bought over 3,000 houses without using my money or credit, and taught thousands to do the same. Today, even in a virtual environment, we buy nice houses in nice neighborhoods using no banks, realtors, contractors, or other costly entanglements, and build huge cash flow and wealth without the hassle of tenants, all without credit and little or no money. You don't need a license or experience, and I'll show you exactly how it's done. Text FREE to 99799, and I'll send you my free training. I promise you I'll change the way you think about real estate and open the door to a new, lifestyle that doesn't involve risk or rehabs and can quickly replace your current income. Text FREE to 99799 and let me show you how to take your life back and build cash flow and wealth from your home. That's FREE to 99799. Again, FREE to 99799.
As an organ donor, your story doesn't have to end. The good in you can live on. In fact, you could save up to 8 lives and restore sight and health for many more. Sign up right now online as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. You'll be happy you did. And just maybe, someone else will be happy too. Go to organdonor.gov. It saves lives. U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Health Resources and Services Administration.
Show. Thank you all for tuning in. 1-877-DOC-A-DOLLY, 1-877-DOC-DALI. So I see you guys already starting to dance, starting to party. Labor Day's coming up. I love Labor Day. I still work because that's just me. And part of the reason why I work is I'm not really good at making the Labor Day party. I'm not a really good party planner, especially with my house and the dogs and the cats. And so I think we could use some good advice on how to make the most spectacular end of summer bash. And so I'm really, really excited. Our next guest is Sam Calagione, founder of Dogfish Headcraft Brewery and Distillery. He is a James Beard Award winner and handsome. And he is here to talk to us about how to make some of the real cool end of summer bashes for Labor Day this year. Sam, thank you so much for joining us.
It is wonderful to be with you, Dr. Dolly. And don't worry, I'm here to make your Labor Day choices for your party nice and easy and painless.
Love it. I love it. And you know what? It's been a rough summer. It has been a rough summer. A lot of people have been stressed. They had COVID. People got shingles, politics. So what you're bringing to the table is so awesome. So how do we make a hopefully forgettable summer a bash that's unforgettable?
Well, I think the goal is to make your end of summer batch easy and not stressful, and that's where Dogfish Head canned cocktails really play a great part. So canned cocktails, spirit-based canned cocktails in general is one of the fastest growing alcohol segments in America. And Dogfish, we've been making our beers for 30 years, and we've been making canned cocktails or cocktails from our own distilled spirits for over 20 years. Not many companies can say that. And our best-selling package is perfect to bring to a Labor Day party because it's a variety pack. So it's called the Bar Cart Vodka Mix Pack. It has 4 different recipes in there. So whatever somebody's palate is like, whatever their preferences are, we got something in there for everyone.
Oh, I love it. I love it. So what's your favorite?
So, man, if I had to just pick one, if I was stuck on a deserted island for a year, I could only have one, it would have to be our best-selling one, which is the Strawberry Honeyberry Vodka Lemonade. Strawberry, everyone knows honeyberry is kind of like elephantitis of the blueberry. It's this big, bold fruit that delivers really beautiful fruit expression, and then the lemon kind of dries it out and balances it.
You know, it's interesting. I love looking at, because I was in the restaurant business. And so it's fascinating how the flavors, how everything was all about the espresso martini. And then it was all about the mojito. And it was all about, and, now it's all these mixology and flavors and all that. So, what are you noticing? What are some of the trends?
You mentioned mixology. And so for us, mixing every canned cocktail has 2 hero fruits in it, whether it's the ones I mentioned from our Bar Cart Vodka Mix Pack, or also on trend, like a word that a lot of culinary foodie people are using this summer is tropical-inspired recipes. And for us, we have our second best-selling mix pack is called the Bar Cart Tropical Mix Pack. Now, this one, like the other one, has a couple of our vodka canned cocktails in it, but this is also a place where you can find our strawberry lime tequila margarita and our pineapple orange rum Mai Tai.
Oh my gosh, this sounds good. I know. I wish it wasn't the morning because I'd be like, okay, I got to try some now. So, wow, this is good. You have been a successful business owner. You have, you've been riding the tides of, for a while now with, what are you noticing in terms of consumership and the brewing industry and the drink industry? What are you seeing in terms of, are you seeing more of an uptick or what?
Well, I'd say there's never been a better moment to be an alcohol beverage consumer in terms of the diversity of makers out there. When Dogfish started, there were only 600 breweries. Now there's over 10,000, but also diversity of flavors. So 20 years ago, no one was talking about spirits-based canned cocktails. It didn't really exist as a category, but now it's really on fire and growing nationally. So for younger drinkers, generally what they're looking for, 21 to 31-year-olds, is diversity. And right now, wine and beer is not growing as fast as the spirits category in America, and that's because these younger drinkers are looking for these cocktails, and Dogfish Head wants to make it easy for people where they don't have to invest in a lot of equipment in their home bar. We're making world-class canned cocktails that are just ready to crack and pour and drink.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We're speaking to Sam Calagione, founder of Dogfish Head Craft Brewery and Distillery, James Beard Award winner. Congratulations on that. I don't really win a lot of awards, but that's a good one. You have now one of the most recognized craft beverage makers in the country. Your distilleries, what you said, 10,000. What's the key to your success?
Well, I would say for us, our rally cry has always been off-centered goodness for off-centered people. So we bring this theme of goodness into everything we do, whether it's the way we operate our waterfront Dogfish Hotel here in beautiful coastal Delaware with e-bikes and regular bikes to get people out of the beauty of nature and take their bikes to the different Dogfish Head restaurants. We have three of them here in coastal Delaware. Or if you're defining goodness as the ingredients in a cocktail, because like for us, we're using real fruit, 2 real fruits in every kind of cocktail that we make. Some other cocktail makers are using artificial fruit and concentrates only, whereas we're building it around real fruit. And that goodness is something that is a stamp of approval for us and a commitment to quality for our consumers.
It's fascinating. I bartended. And so in medical school, I did everything. I don't ask, but, it always blew my mind how, somebody making it behind the bar, how do you replicate that from a mass production standpoint? How do you trust the equipment? How does that process work?
That's a great question, Dr. Delay, because we have different scale distilleries, different scale breweries, and our goal is to protect and hone and perfect the recipe at a small scale first, share it with the people that come to our restaurants here in coastal Delaware, and then once we have it perfectly tweaked and dialed in, then we send it over to our bigger equipment where we can be assured of quality and consistency ahead of shipping it out nationally. So it takes phases to dial it in, and that's what we're known for, is that world-class quality and consistency.
Exactly, that quality. We just spoke on the show about how when people do work-life balance, or they have a day off or Labor Day, how many of them don't really know how to deal with leisure. They don't know how to, and you have provided a place for people to, have that time off, have that, with your hotels, your breweries. What other advice do you have for my listeners as it pertains to this Labor Day?
Well, I would say lean into prefabricated but delicious foods, easy to prepare foods, whether it's an amazing charcuterie board, so you're not stuck in a hot kitchen with an oven, but it's got gourmet ingredients, or it's your choice of beverages. So like both the Dogfish Vodka Bar Cart and the Dogfish Tropical Bar Cart have like an array of different recipes in it. So you're bringing out a package that has a lot of different choices just within one package. That's going to de-stress your life of worrying about it. Do I have something for everybody at my party?
That's awesome. That's awesome. Where can my listeners go to find more information?
Oh, that's easy. A very easy to remember website is ours, which is dogfish.com. And then once your listeners get on there, look for a cool feature we have on there called Fish Finder. And it's a place where you can plug in your own zip code and which Dogfish canned cocktail or beer you're looking for, and it'll pop up the stores near you where Dogfish Head is available.
Awesome. I love that you're in the Chesapeake, Maine, Delaware. I'm going to be in your neck of the woods next year. So definitely going to look you up. And honestly, we appreciate you taking the time and, teaching us how to have a fun and safe Labor Day. God bless you.
Thank you, Beth. Happy Labor Day to you as well.
Happy Labor Day, Sam. You take care. All right, guys, don't go away. We'll be right back. 1-877-DOC-DALI, 1-877-DOC-DALI.
Did you know that healthy arteries make a gas? Yes, actually 3 known gases. Hi, I'm Dr. Mitch, and nitric oxide is a gas that's readily made all day long to keep our arteries open by relaxing the blood vessel walls. By doing this, our circulation is increased, bringing blood, oxygen, and nutrients to every part of your body. Both age and poor diet can lead to a loss of this precious gas, and in turn, blood pressure can go up, energy can go down, and you can get tingling in your hands and feet. Well, our product, Ultimate Nitric Oxide, can easily help fix this lack of nitric oxide. Go to TotalWellness.com. That's TotalWellness.com, where we are helping you to look good, feel good, and enjoy total wellness.
Hey guys, it's Dr. Dahlia. Fantasy football season is coming, but sadly, too many of you are taking the bench while the country takes part in one of the most exciting and lucrative industries out there. Don't know how to play? Well, huddle up and listen. Paul Kalikas and I have written a fantasy football pocket guide for beginners. This book walks you through the basics and shows you how simple and lucrative joining or creating a fantasy football team can be. Read our fantasy football pocket guide for beginners found on Amazon, or follow the links on X and Facebook. That's Fantasy Football Pocket Guides for Beginners. Don't be left out.
At Hotshot Secret, we share the science behind common diesel problems. For example,
Diesel fuel cetane levels.
the cetane rating in diesel fuel is 42 to 45. Most diesel engines operate more efficiently with a cetane rating of 48 to 50. One treatment of Hotshot Secret Diesel Extreme will raise your cetane 7 points, increase fuel economy, and improve cold starts.
Hot Shot Secret Diesel Extreme is available nationwide at truck stops, fine farm and auto stores, and online at hotshotsecret.com. Hot Shot Secret, powered by science.
Hi, it's Mark Falter, host of the Financial Fitness Show. I strongly believe that no one should ever pay 1 penny more in taxes than they are legally obligated. Unfortunately, for most hardworking Americans, this just isn't the case. Why? Because most people spend more time planning next weekend's getaway than trying to ensure they're going to pay less in taxes. My financial fitness team has put together some materials that I know are going to help you. It's the Tax Savings Kit. Tax Savings Kit includes 3 things: free tax analysis, top 10 ways to pay less in taxes, and an investor's guide to taxes. Now, how do you get it? Simple. 866-764-2635. Again, 866-764-2635. I'm Mark Falter. This is Financial Fitness, making personal finance profitable.